Hello and welcome to another edition of Football 301. I am Matt Harmon, joined by Charles McDonald. Charles, we should be getting our fearless leader, Nate, back here in short order, but one more episode between me and you, buddy. I got to ask you, have you overreacted to any training camp highlight video or coach speak just yet, as things are constantly hitting the timeline?
I haven't seen any of it, really. It's day one of training camp, so I'm going to ease my way into this. No one's wearing pads. Like, we're still in the acclimation period. I did see some people freaking out about Jackson Dart, but did I actually click on the videos to watch? Not really, no. It just, let's give it some time. Like Russell Wilson being QB1, I thought we came to term with that in like March. So we'll see what's happening.
Yeah, I rolled out of the gym this morning. You picked my phone back up and saw a bunch of like, Brian Daboll says Russell Wilson is the starter. I'm like, yeah, no kidding. So, I mean, I think we're just pretty desperate for things to talk about. And on that note, this whole show is basically going to be a collection of things that are just made by desperate folks having to talk about something. We're going to run through a bunch of the biggest news items and a few training camp questions we have that we're hoping to, like, some things that we actually might care about and need to get the answers to over the course of the next few weeks, if that's even possible. But we are going to start things, Charles, with a little update on the NFLPA situation. I don't know how much you've been like I'm sure you've been totally dialed into this story because you're a serious person. I've been trying to follow as much as possible. But for the uninitiated out there, maybe you can kind of give people sort of a primer here. But the big news item is that Lloyd Howell and J.C. Tretter, big figureheads up there at the NFLPA, have basically resigned in disgrace after Pablo Torre broke a bunch of news on them and just the misdeeds of the whole thing. So give the people sort of an update on what's going on here.
Well, yeah, I think what you said is perfect. Resigned in disgrace. I was at SB Nation when the Vox Media Union was started, and I was at the Daily News when the Daily News Union was like first getting their legs, but I left before we actually got like ratified or anything like that. Unions have been a big part of my career, so I found this story like really super interesting. And the first thing I could think of was, wow, like if I ever had a union head that acted like this, like we would have his head on a spike somewhere. And it's not. I guess the lack of fervor from NFL players up until this point is really like the most interesting part of this to me, because once you find out that Lloyd Howell was like embezzling funds to take trips to Tootsie's, which is like, I get it, but like I don't. At the same time, you're rich, just spend your own money. It's totally fine. And you have J.C. Tretter, who is like those guys are agreeing with owners to stifle reports about your own money getting back to you. They're stifling reports about that. Like it's just time to go. And I've had people ask me like, well, as a fan, like, why should I care about this? Because you watch football for the players. You don't.
Right. Exactly.
We've like, if I told you today that, instead of Patrick Mahomes for 17 games, you're going to see, Carson Wentz or whoever is the Chiefs backup right now. A lot of people might not. A lot of people still watch, but it's not going to be the same, right? We're here for the quality of the players. The better the players are taken care of, the better the product's going to be. And it's just kind of sad to see their own leadership sell them out and for them not to engage with what is ultimately their money. Like, you're paying union dues. Why don't you know what's going on with the top of the sport? Like, and I understand that, J.C. Tretter and Lloyd Howell were being secretive with all that stuff, but it just kind of, it makes you sit there like, how could you really act like this when so much is on the line? And I think one thing that maybe the players here hopefully have learned is that you can't just like keep giving the owners things at these labor negotiations, and you can't have people representing you that are going to keep giving owners things at these labor negotiations. So when you go back to like 2011 and you get to swap out like less practice time for a rookie wage scale, that sets the precedent for you getting owned in 2020 when they jump up to 17 games, or the COVID CBA when they jump up to 17 games. And then what they've learned, hopefully, is that when you keep selling out the bottom of your union and you keep selling out the people at the bottom, eventually they're going to come for guys at the top, which is exactly what happened with Deshaun Watson, or the fall from Deshaun Watson contract, where Lamar Jackson and Justin Herbert are like named in these documents and being in terms of being colluded against. We saw Lamar Jackson, who won an MVP right after his contract debacle and almost won a second one this past year, back-to-back first-team All-Pros at the very least. He was technically like a free agent. Like your team could have negotiated with Lamar Jackson, and no one did. And ultimately, I think that's a really, really bad thing for the game. Like for teams not to want to engage with monetary or with money to the point where someone like Lamar Jackson doesn't get a deal. You've got text between the Chargers owner and the Cardinals owner talking about like how they're going to stifle player guarantees. Like these are things that you should care about, because ultimately it's really going to start trickling down and affecting the bottom of the sport, where maybe guys don't want to do this because they don't get healthcare, or they don't get the money that they thought they were going to see. I mean, Roger Goodell a few weeks ago or a couple months ago, he already talked about in 2030 looking at, quote, the integrity of the salary cap. I mean, I think you can kind of figure out what that means based on where we've treaded. So it's really important for these guys to have a good labor union. And the good thing here is, if you're looking at an optimistic point of view, 5 years away from a new CBA being signed, there's still time to like get this right. But unfortunately, these guys also, up until a couple days ago, they still wanted JC Tretter to replace Lloyd Howe. So no one's reading here. And I find that part is pretty interesting, because it's just not good for the health of the league, I don't think, to have owners running roughshod over the players.
Yeah, a couple things to piggyback on what you said there. Number one, from like a fan perspective, and again, the title of the show is Football 301. Like we're theoretically, right, catering to fans and people listening to the show want to be smarter about the game. They want to engage. They want to engage with and consume, not brain dead content about the sport of football. And after Lamar Jackson is a free agent a few years ago, essentially for all intents and purposes, every team can negotiate with him and try to get him under contract, at least make an offer to him. Teams waste time doing stuff all the time. Okay, so if you can tell me it's like a waste of time and the Ravens were just going to match the offer, and I do think that is what would have happened in that hypothetical world, 100%. But again, they waste time on so many different things, and then now you have that happen, which is ridiculous in and of itself. But then you have like people trying to carry water for like the owners making these stupid excuses. Like people are talking to you, other folks in the media are talking to you as if you're an idiot. Like, they'll totally believe that like there are injury concerns or this, that, and the other. Like, give me a freaking break. Okay. Yeah. Like it's just, again, that part of it from a fan perspective is just insulting your intelligence, which nobody should do. You're a smart person consuming the game. Like, give me a break. The second thing is, I do think this is a good wake-up call again for the players, because you mentioned it. Jonathan Jones wrote a piece up after talking with JC Tretter after Tretter eventually did resign in disgrace, but that was following a report from Diana Rossini that he was in contention to replace Lloyd Howe as the head of the players union, which that seemed to be like the outcry from that was finally enough to push Tretter out, and I think get some players engaged, because we only have 5 years until we got to sign that new CBA. So hopefully this is like, I hate to use this term, but like we're draining the swamp a little bit from the players union. I hope that's what this ends up going down as. My third and final point, I do want to direct people to like go listen to Pablo Torre and Mike Florio break this down. Like really engage with this content again. And Don Van Natta and Kalen Kaler have done a great job at ESPN reporting on that. And if for no other reason than maybe you're not super interested in this story, there are some hilarious things that have come out of this. I'll just share two of them really quick. I thought that the most outrageous thing from this story was JC Tretter comparing himself in that CBS Sports article with Jonathan Jones to Tyrion Lannister. And basically saying like, yeah, I didn't do it, but like, I wish I had. That was what Tyrion said if you watch Game of Thrones, that was a big scene in when he was accused of killing his nephew, Joffrey Baratheon, the king at the time. Anyways, I thought that was the most outrageous thing, but absolutely topping that today was, again, from a story that Don and Kalen did over at ESPN. I just want to read this verbatim because I found this to be absolutely hilarious. Lloyd Howe ordered the union facility department to merge two spaces in the parking garage to avoid door dings on his Porsche Cayenne Turbo, the sources said. He asked workers to change the number of the two spaces, 10 and 11, to 32, as an homage to the jersey number worn by O.J. Simpson, according to Craig Jones, the union's longtime director of security chief. A second source familiar with the matter confirmed the Simpson inspiration. I don't know why OJ, Jones said. Everyone has their preferences, perhaps. I mean, what an insane collection of words to read.
Everything you need to know about the guy. You're in 2025, you're an OJ Simpson guy still? Okay. I think
you're an OJ Simpson stan in 2025.
He's dead. You don't even have to do that.
Right. So again, like, maybe you're not super interested in unions and labor negotiations, although you should if you care about the sport. And we all do care and love the sport. But just for some of the outrageous things that have been happening here, like people making a lot of money, like here's just another proof of concept that people making a lot of money are not always smart. Okay, like that is, I think, how we can put a bow on this one. But let's move past this. As I don't know how we move past OJ Simpson in the year 2025, but we're going to try to do it here. We're going to talk some contracts, some guys actually getting paid here for these next couple news items. Number one, the Chiefs extend pass rusher George Karlaftis 4 years, $93 million, $62 million guaranteed. He's at 24 and a half sacks in 3 years with the Chiefs. Chiefs continue to extend some guys in their trenches here after giving Trey Smith a bunch of money last week. Charles, when you saw this contract, what did you think?
I like George, but I you know, my brain is so Falcon centered that I went back to like kind of what happened after the Falcons had like their good years, I guess, in 2016 and 2017, when you know you have the Super Bowl collapse, but you're still winning a lot of games in that time frame. Kind of what happened was, and I think like this is what led to Thomas Dimitroff getting fired. They just kind of re-signed everybody, you know. Desmond Trufant, Robert Alford, Keanu Neal, Deion Jones, Grady Jarrett, like everyone got a new deal. And then I think you saw pretty quickly is like, okay, like some of these guys are really quality players on the previous contract, but once you bloat it up, they cease to be value, which is kind of a nasty way to look at it, like coming off of like NFLPA. This is why the union matters, you know. And now I'm saying right, like, hey, maybe you should think about what you're paying these guys. But with the George Karlaftis extension, I think he's a good player. I think he's a quality player. I just don't know if this was. It just kind of felt like a lot at this point because to me he's someone that like mostly benefits from having Chris Jones next to him, and a lot of those. I think a lot of his good plays and a lot of like where he peaks is because he has that dominant presence next to him. But at the same time, like you laid out pretty clean. He's got 24 and a half sacks over the last 3 years. That's pretty difficult production to come by. And he's still a young player. He's only 20 when he got drafted. So like there still should be room for him to improve here. I get it, but I do think it's a little bit of a risk based on him. Like I just see him more as like a secondary starter defensive lineman instead of someone that's like really moving the engine. And maybe I'm off on this, but when I see 4 for 93, that's like where you're moving the engine and you're like a really, really one of the best defensive linemen in the NFL, which I don't know if he's quite there just yet.
It feels like maybe a slight markup on like what Greg Rousseau got for the Bills. And I kind of think they're like similar-ish players, right? Like probably secondary edge rushers, obviously not in the Myles Garrett tier or anything like that. But I wouldn't like balk too much at the deal. I do think he's a good player, like no question about it. Yeah, again, is he in the first couple tiers of pass rushers? Maybe not, but solid run defender, certainly a guy that I think does maybe benefit by having a player like Chris Jones alongside him. But I just look at this Chiefs defense and I do think that, you know, if the offense is going to kind of be anything like it was last year, and I think they'll rank better than 32nd in explosive play rate, which is what they were last year. But still, I do think this defense needs to carry a large portion of the burden when they're just in this phase of the team building process as Kelsey is aging out and they're still kind of trying to develop some of those young pass catchers. They have, you know, kind of a bunch of names at running back. Hopefully Pacheco's better this year. I do kind of think that they need to be strong in the trenches. So I don't want to balk too much at it, but I do hear some of what you're saying here.
Yeah, I mean, it's a necessary. I just like, we'll see what happens down the road. I don't know if it's just like me just reflexively being like, ugh, I remember we had a bunch of good players that I thought were really good, and then they signed the market rate deals, and it wasn't quite what I thought it was going to be anymore. But you got Patrick Mahomes. You can only fret so much about stuff like this.
Other interesting notes just from Kansas City is that Jawan Taylor is going to start the camp on the PUP. Meanwhile, their left tackle Josh Simmons been getting rave reviews. The rookie there, he's He's apparently going to, I think he's probably the favorite to start. So that's pretty
Yeah.
encouraging for Kansas City on that regard. But next thing up here, we have another contract extension. The Packers extended right tackle Zach Tom 4 years, $88 million. The $30.2 million signing bonus is the most ever for an offensive lineman. So historic deal here for Zach Tom. What was your reaction when you saw this one come down?
Man, Eldon Jenkins is probably a little salty guy, you know.
He is definitely a little bit salty right now. Yeah,
he's trying to get that deal. But I mean, this is something that the Packers had to do because they're so close, right? I think they're really close to being like the offense probably that we thought they were going to be last year. And I don't think you can get better like that unless your offensive line is strong. And luckily, like this is one area the Packers are really good at, kind of like churning through offensive linemen and figuring out the body types that fit. So. Here's another one. If you look at the money, it's a pretty team-friendly deal. Like they don't actually have like all that much commitment to him, which is kind of what every Packers contract is outside of Jordan Love, where he got the big bag, big like long-term security. But if you look at Josh Jacobs, that was basically a 1-year deal. The Xavier McKinney deal was basically a 1-year deal. And like they're going to be on the team for more than 1 year, but it gives them a lot of flexibility. So I think it's interesting. I would be stunned if Zach Tom doesn't play out the length of his contract or get an extension in year 3 at some point. He's one of the better young tackles in the league, and they need him because it seems like, especially with Eldon Jenkins out right now, and he's dealing with some injuries, and it seems like once he gets back, he's just going to play on his current contract and try to move it forward for next year. But they seem to be doing a little shuffling at guard and left tackle, trying to figure out what to do with Jordan Morgan, who they drafted in the first round a couple years ago. So just to get a fixture on Zach Tom and have him set on the right side, I think it eases some concerns about where you're going into the future, because you don't want to have to look for new offensive linemen. If you got a good young one, just lock them up.
Yeah, they signed Aaron Banks in the offseason to pretty decent money too. They do always kind of have like, they don't never maybe have like a top 5 offensive line in the league, but they're consistently, it feels like, between that, I don't know, 8 to bare minimum like 14th ish range in the NFL. So, and I think that is important because obviously I think they were more run heavy than they intended to be last year. Like, I don't think they went into last season thinking we're going to be 32nd in neutral pass rate. We're going to be dead last in the NFL in neutral pass rate. But with Jordan Love dealing with all those injuries, they did really rely on the run game. But LaFleur always wants to have a pretty run centric offense. Like, they're never pushing for the NFL lead in pass attempts. But when they do pass the ball, they want to push it down the field. I mean, Jayden Reed runs all these like big post routes. Obviously, they draft Matthew Golden, who is a vertical receiver. Jordan Love is a guy who is willing to push it. So they do need that pass protection to kind of be right and tight as well. So investing in the offensive line to me makes a lot of sense here.
Yeah, and I'm really just excited to see the NFC North because it looks like there's a few like the AFC West, NFC North, a couple divisions that look like they could be really loaded. As long as the Packers stay healthy, man, it's hard not to just keep buying like some of the potential that they have, because I think like,
they're still the youngest team in the NFL.
Right. And you look at their skill weapons, you look at the quarterback, like there's still so much room to grow here. You just gotta stay patient and see what happens. But this is like a building block that they had to keep for the future.
Yeah, we are doing our top 10 offensive line, or excuse me, top 10 offenses podcast when Nate gets back, and I've already started to kind of think about that, and they're almost certainly going to make my list because I think they kind of underperformed expectations last year. Like, things didn't go right for them all the way through on offense. They led the league in drops. Obviously, like I mentioned, Jordan Love was not healthy all last year, and they were still like a top 10 offense in most metrics. So again, I'm really high on the Packers as well, and very excited to see how this team plays out through the course, or this division plays out through the course of the season. Last contract extension we'll talk about before we throw to break here. TJ Watt gets a big bag from the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are on the other end of the roster youth level. They're one of the oldest rosters in the NFL. They give TJ Watt a 3-year contract extension worth $123 million. The deal includes $108 million in guaranteed money. He is now the highest paid non-quarterback in the league. Watt's coming off like kind of a weird end to last season. I think we debated that a lot in the top 10 defenders podcast. We discussed that a little bit, but what was your did this one catch you by surprise at all when you saw this,
Charles? I like yes and no, kind of, because I mean the Steelers, come on, Was TJ
Yeah,
Watt ever going to play anywhere else but Pittsburgh? Like,
no.
there's just no shot. He's going to die in, yellow and black. That's it would just feel weird if he played anywhere else. So I'm not surprised that they extended him. I guess the amount of money was a little surprising because I thought they were going to play hardball a little bit. Like, hey, you're 31 years old. Ugh, as I say, as a fellow 31-year-old,
I was gonna say, yeah, he turned 31 this year. I'm closer to 35 than 31. So continue, as we call him the oldest player ever.
Oh my God, he's a fossil. He's 31 years old. It's terrible. Yeah. But usually you don't see NFL teams like pay for past performance like this because I mean, the chances that TJ Watt plays at like Myles Garrett or Micah Parsons level for the next 2 years, like where he's guaranteed to be on the roster, I don't know, it seems kind of slim to me. But I also kind of don't hate the idea of like just keeping your franchise legends around as long as they're still productive players. I do think that matters. It's got some intangible value that's kind of hard to nail down, but it would just suck to not have TJ Watt in his Steelers uniform after all that he's done for that franchise and how good he's been. And if you can kind of become one of like the name brand defenders for that franchise, like you're on track to be in the Hall of Fame. So obviously it's a guy you want to keep around. But for him to become like the highest paid non-quarterback and to get all that guaranteed money, I mean, great. That's great for TJ. I was just a little surprised that they ended up ponying that up. But the Steelers operate a little bit differently. I just thought that they were going to say, hey, that stuff was in the past and we got to pay you for what we think you're going to be in the future. I don't think he's going to be the best edge rusher in football, but he's still got the bag for it. So what do I know?
Well, yeah, I think with where the Steelers are right now, like, I don't know, they're just such a weird team to talk about. And I just see so many, I'm trying to check my biases here as we open camp to some teams that I'm just super skeptical of, but I see a lot of paths for this to go very, very wrong for Pittsburgh this year, which, they're obviously just gambling on the Rodgers stuff. They are very old on defense. Like we mentioned, Watt is going to turn 31 this year. Cam Hayward is defying all the odds, but Father Time always wins in the end. He's coming off one of his greatest seasons, but he's an older player. They trade for Jalen Ramsey, who's in his 30s. Darius Slay was like their other big defensive addition, and he's deep into his 30s at this point. So that is just, I feel like I can see a lot of combustibility in this team, but this is what they're trying to do. They're trying to say, hey, we're usually this like 9-8 sneak into the playoffs. We're trying to maybe be 10-7 this year, maybe an 11 win team, but this is it. Like it's a 1 year window. And then next year they have a lot of these draft picks to maybe actually invest in some youth and push to a different era. But I guess you probably want TJ Watt as happy as possible during the next couple of years here. So that's probably their logic.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I mean, I think we've talked a lot about Steelers and, they're doing the Steeler thing. I don't know what to expect from them, but we'll be tuned in, because
I'm skeptical. I will just say that I think I'm going to be low. I think I'm going to be lower on the whole Steelers thing than most this year.
Spoiler: they will not be making my top 10 offenses list next week. Oh.
Would they make your top? Would they make your top 20 offenses?
Yeah, I think they would sneak in at 20. Just give some respect to Aaron and DK. That's it. But other than that, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. Yeah.
I'll put them at 23.
This is one of those offenses to me that looks like middle of the pack EPA, but really low success rate, where they're just kind of getting big play every once in a while. But other than that, it's crap.
Yeah, it's a big play when Rodgers sees it pre-snap, and then if it's not, he's dirting it, and the play is over. So yeah, the success rate there is going to be super low. But I can see your point on that one. All right, we're going to take our first break. We come back, we're going to talk about an AFC North pass rusher who is not getting the bag that he wants. Right after this. All right, we are back. TJ Watt very happy with his contract extension. We're going to talk in this section teams being weird. And does it matter is how I'm going to phrase these next three stories that we're going to talk about. And we're going to start here back in the AFC North with Trey Hendrickson and Shamar Stewart contracts. Neither one of those guys are in camp. Trey Hendrickson apparently told Manti Te'o that his contract offer is a atrociously low. He then proceeded to post an Instagram story in Florida yesterday as the Bengals are opening camp in Ohio. Those two states are not close if you're not a U.S. geography expert. Mike Brown then proceeded to talk about Trey Hendrickson, calling him an emotional guy, and then also questioned the advice that Shamar Stewart was taking. So, yikes. I mean, and Joe Burrow spoke today and said, you wish that everybody was here, but sometimes that's how these things happen. So
it's a very diplomatic answer.
Very diplomatic answer by a guy that did get his money and did get his two guys on offense paid. So we got that done, but we have not accomplished anything in terms of this Trey Hendrickson extension. And Shamar Stewart obviously is still not under contract. I guess they're two separate situations. We don't have to approach this all with just Bengals are the Bengals, but do we think this Trey Hendrickson situation gets resolved before week 1? Because I think of all the holdouts that are going on right now, he's one guy that I could actually see missing games.
It's tough because now, we were talking about CBA to start the show. If you're a veteran player, like Shamar Stewart is okay.
Yeah.
But if you're a veteran player who doesn't show up to camp, you get fined $50,000 a day. A day. Like, okay, I don't think this is going to be that as extreme what happened last year with the Jets and Hassan Reddick, but he lit millions of dollars on fire by the time that it was over, and then he joined so late that he was kind of out of shape and didn't play well. And now, if you're an average NFL fan, could you tell me what team Hassan Reddick plays for? Right, that's kind of what happened to him after last season. So it's kind of weird to like frame this as like, are they being weird? Because I just think this is more the Bengals being the Bengals. I mean, think about how long it took them to pay Jamar Chase and contract disputes that they've had in the past. So the part that is just kind of confusing to me is you have this window right now. Like every year that you have Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, you're going to be one of the best offenses of football, which means that you have a Super Bowl window. Why not just maximize it? I mean, it's not like this team is starved for cap space over the next few years. Like they have money to potentially pay Trey Hendrickson whatever he wants for maybe 2 years, and then you're probably going to get out of it because he is 30. It's not like it's going to be a long-term deal. I don't really understand why they're not just kind of like going for it more. And I know that this is what Mike Brown does. It's kind of what the Bengals do. I'm not sure how their fans like hearing that, but I mean, there's one team that people make fun of for being cheap, and it's Bengals. They're even their staff is smaller than what a lot of NFL teams are working with. So I really just think they need to get over this and just figure out what it takes to get Shamar and Trey into camp, because that defense was terrible last year. Terrible. Right. And that was with Trey Hendrickson. And I think there's a world where you can construct a team where, okay, we're going to dump it on them on offense and hopefully we can turn up the heat on the pass rush, and that will like shore up some of the problems that we had last year. But if your top 2 pass rushers aren't in camp, then that plan falls apart like immediately. So I just find it a little baffling that they're not willing to maybe make a bigger compromise here, but also don't know the insides and outs of all the negotiations that are going on. But whenever an owner is coming out and calling one of his best players, what did he call him? Emotional guy? A really emotional guy?
He said, this is the quote. This is from Mike Brown. And this is the part that I think is weird. It's not as much the contract stuff as this part. He said, I think it'll get done. We like Trey as a person. He's a good guy. But when it comes to these negotiations, and we've been through a few of them, he pushes hard. He gets emotional. He never has an easy time of it, but that's one thing that is consistent.
I mean, he's only got one shot to make this money. Why would you? Right. Why would you stop? Or why would you be complacent with this? I don't know. I just don't really like how they get down. It's really confusing to me. And if you're not going to pay Trey Hendrickson, then just trade him. Like you could have at least gotten a pick back for him that you could have used on draft pick that you didn't want to pay at some point. So it's just really weird. Like you have a Super Bowl window. You have a franchise quarterback. You have one of the best offenses in football. Maximize it. Let's go. Like you're not going to beat the Ravens with the defense you have currently now. If Trey and Shamar aren't in the best shape, you're going to give up 40 points a game. So let's lock in. Come on, Mike.
Yeah, it just needs to get done, or like there needs to be some resolution here. Like, yeah, you got to trade him at this point if you're not going to sign him to that deal because, now those picks are not going to help you this year, and you're not going to get like some, I don't know, after the Jalen Ramsey for Minka Fitzpatrick / Jonnu Smith with a couple of random picks, maybe player for player trades are back on the menu here in the NFL, but I tend to be skeptical that they're going to flip Trey Hendrickson for somebody who's going to help their defense this year. So yeah, like this is the window, and look, Burrow said it very well. Like the window is as long as I'm here. Although that being said, like they have not been one of the best teams in the AFC. They certainly were not last year because of the defense, and that's the part that has to be. If I was a Bengals fan, it would just be very frustrating to me. And yeah, I don't know like the ins and like you said, I don't know the ins and outs of the negotiation. I'm not smart enough from a contract perspective to really break down what Shamar Stewart wants versus what the Bengals aren't giving him and all that stuff. But, I'm certainly never going to cape up for the teams and say like, oh yeah, let's haggle over a few $1,000,000 here or there. Like this just needs to get done because you mentioned it. And this is something that I go back to the receivers last year that held out, like CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Ayuk. Those guys held out, and it was to me, it was stupid on both teams' parts. Like you knew you were going to, for Dallas, you knew you were going to pay CeeDee Lamb. And for the 49ers, like again, similar with Trey Hendrickson, you either got to trade him or sign him, but letting it go all the way to the end of the season, both those guys came in and did not play their best football to start the year. And obviously Brandon Ayuk ends up getting hurt, but like, that's what you risk. You're a contending team and you risk getting off to a slow start, which by the way, Cincinnati, that's what you do every single year. Like you lost to the damn Patriots in week 1 as they're just running duo down your throat over and over again. Like, what are we talking about here? So they run the risk of the same problems that happen to them every year. And again, if I was a Bengals fan, maybe you're a little annoyed at the players because that's sometimes how fans get. But to me, I'd be very frustrated that this is the position I'm in.
Yeah. Excuse me. Get your best players on their contracts. You're going to take Lamar Jackson as your backup defensive line? Come on now. Let's go.
Yeah. Speaking of get your players under contract, this is one that I really want to know if you think this matters at all. Because Jerry Jones yesterday is at training camp. He's given his usual monologue, his press conference. And then he slips in a couple of weird, like for the most part, I watched a good bit of it because I hate myself. I watched a good bit of it. For the most part, very complimentary of like Micah Parsons and the whole thing, as he's obviously looking to get TJ Watt money plus. And then he says a couple of weird things, including the fact that he's saying like, hey, even if we sign him, we might not have him because last year he missed 6 games when he actually missed 4 games, did Micah Parsons last year. He also then said, hey, I made Dak Prescott the richest player in football. And he missed 2/3 of the year, which is a little bit of he didn't actually miss. I think he missed like half the season. He went out like week 8, week 9. So again, maybe Jerry a little loose with the facts and figures here, but apparently Micah Parsons didn't like it because JJ Watt quote tweeted a comment about this and said, hey, anytime you can take a dig at your star quarterback and your star pass rusher simultaneously right before the season begins, you just got to take it. Nothing makes you want to fight for you more than hearing how upset you are that that players get hurt while fighting for you, basically. So then Micah Parsons retweets it, and then both Trayvon Diggs and Micah Parsons go out and talk to the media, kind of in discussion of this. And Trayvon Diggs said, like, because he got docked $500,000 for not working out, not rehabbing at the team facility, and said that hurt my feelings. So
Trayvon feelings.
Diggs, yeah, I'm more than my feelings if you heard if we lost $500K, but that's just me. So yeah, does any of this actually matter though for the Cowboys on the field? Because I'm pretty excited about this team this year, but I do wish that Jerry would not just throw a couple of random, very quotable moments out there.
Yeah, I mean, it matters to the degree that your team could have been better if you did what Micah Parsons said he wanted to do and sign last year. But now, now you've put Micah in a position where he has to F you on this, like you can't, if you're Micah Parsons, you can't take anything less than what TJ Watt just got. And if you wanted to sign last year, then that's an L on you because you knew the Myles Garrett contract was coming for a fact. We all knew that was coming, whether it was going to be a Cleveland or it was going to be someone else. We knew that he was going to reset the market on basically non-quarterbacks. And then, maybe you didn't know TJ Watt was going to one up that, but you had to know it was a possibility. So how do you keep ending up here where your stars aren't getting paid on time? And Micah Parsons even said that he wanted to get paid last year, and that would have put you in a better spot to maybe maximize what you have going on this year. And just in general, maybe Jerry is just he's not thinking about things the way he used to, or he's coming a little bit harsher as he gets to be, at his age.
What it sounds like is that like Jerry Jones is not actually doing any of the negotiating with agents.
Yeah.
His son Stephen Jones is doing that. But then like Jerry wants to view it as hey, when I just want to get in the room with Micah and like we just talk it out, which like that's
not how it works anymore. It's not 1983. You're not paying these guys the amount of money you were back then. Like they need representation. So I don't know. It's like the story that won't go away. I mean, we've been saying that he should be get paid for like the past year and a half. What are we waiting for? He's going to be on your roster for a long time. He's arguably the best defensive player in the NFL. All three of us had him in, like, at worst, maybe number 2 or worst number 3.
I had 2. Maybe 2, 3.
Right. So this is a guy that everyone agrees is an elite player. I don't understand why they're dragging their feet and then going on and antagonizing about it. Now, do I think it'll affect what's going on the field? No, because sometimes teams get lucky, right? Where they end up drafting a guy who, like, it would physically hurt them to not be on the field with their teammates to start training camp. And that's kind of where the Cowboys get a win here, right? Because Michael Parsons does not have to show up to training camp if he doesn't want to. I know that, I know he still has rookie deal, so I think he would be okay from the fines. So like he doesn't have to be here at all. And the fact that he is like a nod to respect to what you guys are trying to build. So you should throw some the other way and get this contract done and just get it out the way because you all know he's going to be there. So what are we waiting for?
Right. Like we know how this story ends. Probably 5 days before the season kickoff, we're going to get the news alert that Micah Parsons has signed a deal that, tops TJ Watt. He makes $42 million a year or whatever. And like, it's done. Like that's what's going to happen here. Just like it happened with CeeDee Lamb. But you're right that the Cowboys are getting off the hook a little bit that Micah is just like, you could tell that he's one of these guys who just loves football. He lives for football. And I'm not saying that, CeeDee Lamb doesn't love football or anything, but Lamb obviously, as is his right, took the choice to not go to camp last year. And I do think that affected the play very minorly at the beginning of the season. Dallas got off to a slow start last year and then eventually lost Dak. Like they weren't a very good offense to start last year. And this defense needs Micah Parsons because what I've been saying that I'm really excited about Dallas's offense this year. Their running back core, let's just yada yada over that for a second. But the offensive line is good. I'm very high on what George Pickens is going to do with CeeDee Lamb this year. Dak is healthy. That's great. They're going to score a lot of points. Defensively, I think as long as you have Micah Parsons, you won't ever be like a 2024 Bengals type defense. He's just too good. But there's a lot of questions elsewhere, including with Diggs in the secondary and what that's going to look like. So you want him to be like 100% invested, 100% present at camp. And at least for that second part, that's at least absolutely true so far.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's just get a move on.
You said they're going to the conference championship game. That was your bold prediction.
Oh yeah, I did say that. I said that at the Super Bowl.
You did say that.
I said that. I forgot I said that.
I did not forget that because that was such a great. We've had a nice, smart little breakdown pod. Let's throw some red meat. Let's throw some red meat to the.
No, because at that point. At that point, to tell everyone the truth, I was ready to go outside in New Orleans. And one thing you can't do when you got to go outside is work. So, throw everyone a bone. But, I'm going to stand on that. We'll see if I remember that I
think it could age well. I really do think. I really think they could be. I think I'm very.
I don't know.
You said it first.
I did say it first, but I didn't mean it. So I'm going to say in a month, we'll see where I feel about my Cowboys conference championship take. I guess I did mean it, but maybe I didn't. I don't know. We'll see how I feel at the end of August.
Fair enough. Let's last story that we're going to hit here in the NFC East. We're going to stay there because a player who is not in camp right now is Terry McLaurin. McLaurin officially did not report to camp, and reportedly, according to Henry McKenna of Fox Sports, basically McLaurin is willing to do whatever it takes to get a new contract. Hold out, hold in, request a trade, the whole deal. The Commanders also signed Von Miller over the weekend to confirm their place as the oldest team in the league. This is literally, it is factually, this is the oldest roster in the league, and like all of the players they've added this offseason, like Laramie Tunsil's 30, Deebo Samuel's 29 and past his prime, and like Von Miller is, I mean, he's like 37. So This is a very old roster in addition to some of the older guys that they brought in last year. Where do you stand on this McLaurin thing? Because I'm a big McLaurin fan. I love this guy. He is also a sneaky older player. He's 30 years old. He'll be 30. If he gets a 3-year deal, he'll be, 33, 34 by the end of that contract. Is that enough to push you to a point where you think like, actually, it might be good for him to just walk away from this one or play hardball with him? Because to me, it just seems weird you're signing all these older players, but then you're going to draw the line at Terry McLaurin, like the guy who has been
really weird.
And a total team first guy. Everybody in the locker room loves him. And again, if I'm the Commanders, I want to just keep the good vibes rolling with what you did with Jayden Daniels last year. I don't want to have this is not a good receiver room. This is not a good receiver room without Terry McLaurin. It's one of it might be the worst in the NFL if McLaurin's not a part of it. I don't want to even risk that happening for a second. So I can understand some of the arguments about, hey, do you want to pay a receiver DK Metcalf money as he's about to hit into his 30s? But Terry McLaurin's a better receiver, and you would be banged on offense without him. So that's also another sticking point here.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm overthinking this part about like his age, but he did, if I recall correctly, he did get into the NFL when he was like 24.
Yes, he is a sneaky older player because I misspoke. He's 29 right now. He'll be 30 in September. But yeah, same difference.
Right. So maybe there's not as much tread on the tires, but I think the most important point is like the Jayden Daniels part of this, because you rarely see a rookie quarterback and wide receiver just catch fire like that in their first years working together. And to me, that is such an integral part of what they were on offense, especially once you get into like some of the red zone success that they had, and really just like the whole, I guess, atmosphere around Jayden Daniels' rookie year. Like, it doesn't happen without Terry McLaurin being there and being as good as he was. Like, that connection is so important that it would just be paramount for me to, like, if I'm them, just to keep that together no matter what, and then we can build around that. Because as long as you got Jayden on the rookie contract, I would be surprised if Terry McLaurin is still on the team by the time you get to the Jayden Daniels extension.
Right.
So why not just pay him now? So it's a little weird that they're playing hardball. But one thing I will say, Terry, just go to practice. Like,
yeah,
I don't know if JC Treader getting popped on that Ross Tucker podcast where he was saying, I would tell them to hold in, but actually, no, don't actually hold in. I don't know if that's got people a little spooked right now, but at least go and not get fined $50,000 every day, because I don't care how much money you make. That's going to add up really quickly in a way that's probably going to hurt your pocket. So just get there, see if you can hold in, see if you can negotiate. But for the Commanders, again, like kind of like the Bengals, are you not going for it all this year? You were just in the NFC title game. And I know that the NFC title game didn't go well for you, and you're probably still a tier below the Eagles as far as like overall roster construction, but this is arguably the most important part of your offense. I don't even know if it's arguably. Why not just get this done? I think it's really confusing. Again, like the past conversations, we don't have all the details on what exactly Terry is asking for, but I can't imagine he's getting asked to be paid by like Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson.
No, yeah.
So if you're gonna if
I'm CeeDee Lamb, if I'm Terry McLaurin's agent, I'm saying like the like $32 million, like we're just under $33 million that DK Metcalf got, like that Garrett Wilson got. That's what that's what I'd want. And again, like a 3-year deal. That's what I'd be looking for. And he totally justified in doing that. Like, he's coming off a much, much better season than certainly DK Metcalf and Garrett Wilson too, honestly, just because, I mean, he played obviously in a much better offense, much better quarterback play. That's that's just the nature of the receiver position. But like McLaurin's a good player. And again, somebody that I know you don't always want to reward people for past performance, as we talked about with TJ Watt, but this is a guy that slogged through some shit, bro. I mean, and never said a word. Never even a passive aggressive eye roll to a reporter when he's catching passes from Sam Howell and Eric Bieniemy's clown car offense. Okay. And Carson, like Ron Rivera selling Carson Wentz as a franchise quarterback and Daniel Snyder doing Daniel Snyder stuff. Like that part of it also to me is just like, what is the message you're sending to the rest of your team? And it's just an odd roster too, just again, because they have like a young phenom quarterback, but a lot of like aging guys around him. So you'd think, again, like you said, you want to win this year.
Yeah. Jayden Daniels is the most important part of this franchise. That was something that really worked for Jayden Daniels in her offense. I'm just trying to make 1 + 1 = 2 here. Like you said, I don't think a 3-year, like $96 million contract with the first 2 years guaranteed. Is anyone really sniffing at that? Is anyone like thinking that that's outrageous? I don't know. We'll see.
Are you in or out on Washington this year? Because I can't quite come to terms.
I'm more in on the offense, less in on the defense. Like I really do think that the Tunsil and Josh Carnley upgrades are pretty important. And even Tunsil, like where he was last year, was it the best version of him? No. Was it better than what they had? Yeah. And then Carnley's their first round pick, plus Jayden Daniels. Like I do think those upgrades matter, but defense, I kind of don't get it. Like swapping out John Allen for Javon Kinlaw, and then going after Von Miller. You still got Bobby Wagner there. It just seems like you get really slow, really fast on that side of the ball, which is not something that Dan Quinn defenses have been, really productive at. Like when they're not the fastest guys in the field, it can get bad in a hurry. And I just worry that maybe they've lost some speed in their front seven.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And offensively too, I mean, I just think again, if McLaurin's not there and if he holds out deep into like does the CeeDee Lamb, the Brandon Ayuk thing, like, and he's not quite himself this year, number one, that could end up costing him if he doesn't get the deal. But then two, you're counting on this version of Deebo Samuel, who was not good on film at any point last year, pre-pneumonia, post-pneumonia, wasn't good on film last year. And like Luke McCaffrey to step up as your slot receiver. You didn't add it like anything out to the running back room outside of a 7th rounder and Cross-Q Merritt, like just Sam Cosmi also being banged, like tearing his ACL deep in the last season. He was their best lineman last year. A lot of stuff to consider with the Commanders, but we'll talk through more of that as time goes on here throughout the course of the preseason. We are going to take our final break. When we come back, we'll hit just a few more questions we have that you guys should be watching as we head into training camps here right after this. All right, we are back. Charles, we're just going to hit some questions that we should be looking at here throughout the course of training camp. A few things I want the people to be paying attention to. One, my eye is on the Rams right now because, dude, I am so excited about this Rams offense. And again, as we're going to be doing top 10 offenses, the show next week, obviously they're a team I am definitely considering, but Jordan Rodriguez reported from training camp that per Sean McVay, quarterback Matthew Stafford's dealing with some back soreness heading into camp. Rams will modify his workouts and he will start training camp working to the side with trainers. That's a 5-day period per McVay. If Stafford's an older guy, he's got a bad back. Ain't nobody used to have a bad back. You got a bad back. You got a bad back. As our mutual friend Eric Stoner once said back in the day, a tenet to live by in this sport and frankly in real life.
Yeah.
Secondly, the reason that this is on my radar is that Stafford at this point, and this was one of the reasons I didn't have him, and I kind of regret not having him as a top 10 quarterback, but one of the reasons I didn't have him as a top 10 quarterback was that the splits when he is under pressure, when he's not under pressure, are dramatic at this point. He's already dealing with something in the back, and Alaric Jackson is dealing with blood clots after they gave him a big contract extension. They signed Coleman Shelton to start at center. I maybe start at center, but he was a terrible center with the Bears last year. That's on my radar. Again, I just think paying attention to some of these, like the Rams offensive line, is something that I think is paramount because that could be where it all crumbles, what looks like a very, very exciting offense right now.
Yeah. The Matthew Stafford thing, I don't look, my back hurts every day. Sometimes that's just what happens. Like, I think he'll be okay. And it doesn't seem like it's anything that's going to stop him from playing games. It's just kind of what happens when you get old. Your back hurts. He's been playing a lot of football. But the offensive line, I think it's fair to be a little concerned about that because remember they made a big swing on Jonah Jackson last year, and obviously it didn't work out. He's now with the Chicago Bears for a 6th-round pick. So um, that's some turnover. I'm still hopeful that guys like Avila can still kind of live up to potential and be, one of those real like true building blocks for the future that allows them to stay running the ball like how they want to and how Sean McVay likes to play. Um, but it is a little confusing because I think this is like the one area that could actually tank the offense if it's not good enough because your quarterback isn't as mobile as he used to be. And I think you're kind of still, it's not necessarily a bad thing, I think, because you're kind of playing counterculture, but their offense is kind of reliant on Stafford having the time and being able to just fire down the field. And if that offensive line isn't up to par, that could be like a true disaster zone for them, because I don't see Matthew Stafford at this point, who was drafted, this is his 17th NFL season, really moving around like that.
I was in high school when he was drafted.
Yeah, same. I was a 9th grader. Yeah, when he got drafted.
Crazy. I saw some old like Lions highlight where he was like scrambling down the field, and I was like, that ain't happening anymore. Okay,
it's a new era. It's a new era,
and that's sort of why I mentioned the back thing is just like if you're he's always kind of dealing with something. I'm not making like a freak out about the back thing, but he's got the sore back. He gets hit from the blind side because DJ Humphries is starting because Alaric Jackson's not out there, and then all of a sudden, oh man, like we're talking about Stafford taking a big hit, and then. By the way, if look, knock on wood, I don't want any of this to happen. I want with everything in my being for this, for Matthew Stafford to be out there kicking ass with this wide receiver duo. But we're one big hit away from Devontae Adams catching passes from Jimmy Garoppolo again. I remember how that went last time. I mean, Devontae did not have a good time.
It'd be a really handsome duo, though, wouldn't it?
It didn't really work out again for the Raiders the last time these guys were teamed up. Handsome or not.
Did not.
Just throwing that out there. So that is again one offensive line to monitor. I want to go to another offensive line for a team that, just like the Rams, probably fancies itself as a contender. The Texans offensive line. The Texans are selling us this offseason, Charles, that more is better or different is better because they got a lot of guys that they can throw at this offensive line. I think some of the positions are set in stone, but there are also probably a couple just open spots. And quite frankly, like I want to see who fills them, like who is the starting 5 for the Texans? And is there a group of the options here that would make you feel better than the others? Because they did obviously bring in a lot of guys from like the Seahawks offensive line and the Vikings offensive line. 2 teams by the end of the year were like, yep, they need a lot of upgrades on that position. The Texans have brought them in as potential solutions here.
Yes, this offseason, the Texans, we talk about Larry Tunsil, who they flipped to the Commanders. They've added Cam Robinson, Laken Tomlinson, Jake Andrews, Ed Ingram, and then drafted Ariante Ursary on day 2 of the draft. I would say you need Ursary to be one of your 5 starters, like for sure. Among yes. Like what they have, it's not the strongest group, and I like you said, they went with this idea that more is better or different is better. I don't really know what they're looking at, like to make them come to these conclusions that this is going to be like some revamped offensive line, unless they got like the greatest offensive line coach in the world, and obviously that would make a difference as far as just how cohesive and organized they are up front. I just don't really see how this isn't a bottom offensive line, unless guys take like some really, really big steps. Like if Titus Howard plays a lot better than he has, Blake Fisher takes a step, Ariante Ursary starts, like that's kind of the optimistic view. But as it sits now, where you still have rookies who should be afforded the time to be second round rookies, like Ursary, I just don't really know how they take an improvement over where they were last year, unless like the improvement in offensive line coaching is really just that substantial.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is that the protection plans last year, and you and Nate talked about this a lot leading up to the playoffs, and then like right at the end of when their season came to a close, there didn't CJ Stroud get sacked like 8 times and against the Kansas City Chiefs in the playoff loss, I believe, something like that. So it was a good moment to talk about like their protection plans last year were just a mess. They were one of the teams that just like walked into the season just DOA because of that, and eventually it just bore into other areas of the offense where I think Stroud started to develop some bad habits. Like I think Stroud's a great quarterback, but there were some sprays by the end of the season, even when there wasn't like pressure, because I think he's constantly thinking like, all right, I'm getting the snap. There's no way they're going to be able to pick up a stunt. I got to immediately go into chaos mode. And again, just like that's not his fault. Like that is a reason for why that happened, is the offensive line and the protection plans. They're hoping that this changes with some of these guys, like, hey, that maybe just, I don't know, take to the program better, this, that, and the other. But obviously you don't walk in here with more talent than you did last year. I do think that sometimes I can buy into the different is better, but obviously again, I'm just paying attention to like who are the guys, because yeah, Ursary coming in here, who was your first pick this year after trading out of the first round, like him coming in here and immediately being like a day one starter would be a huge coup for this team, because Cam Robinson is a name, but I think he used to be like an average starting tackle and is now like has certifiably been below average, certainly with the Vikings last year.
Yeah, he peaked as like maybe like a top 20 starting left tackle. I don't think he's that guy anymore though. Yeah.
Yeah, you can sell yourself on some improvement from a guy like Blake Fisher. Titus Howard's a solid starter. You really need like center to come together, and I mean, I don't know, the fact that like Laken Tomlinson and Ed Ingram are like contenders to start that's troubling. Like you don't want that. So again, I'm just curious what the final five combination looks like. I feel like every show I do at this point, I always end up bearing the lead when I'm like training camp questions or whatever. I never feel like I just start off with the fact that like, hey, the Vikings are breaking in a new starting quarterback, and they're a team that almost was the number one seed in their conference last year and probably let that slip maybe because of quarterback play. And regardless of what you think about Sam Darnold, like he was one of the most productive quarterbacks in the NFL this year. So I feel like big training camp question is just, how does JJ McCarthy look in camp, and how much obviously does that matter? Does the offense look different with him under center? A lot of things to discuss and consider in Minnesota right now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone could say how they know he'll look. I mean, he hasn't played a real football game since Michigan won the national championship game against Washington. That was
time ago.
That was a long time ago at this point. So I don't know how he'll look, but I know he better look good, because this is a team that can win the Super Bowl if things break right for them. And they went out and they got offensive line upgrades, like big time offensive line upgrades. They basically they did redo the entire interior of their offensive line, where you got Donovan Jackson in the draft, you got Will Fries and Ryan Kelly in free agency. Obviously, that was a huge need that they felt like they had to address, and they attacked it. So you got an offensive line, got Justin Jefferson, got Jordan Addison, who's like one of the perfect like wide receiver twos in the league to me. Go get it, Kevin O'Connell, you got good coaching, you're going to have a good defense. I mean, this is set up for him to have like a breakout first season, but at the same time, like you still want to give him like the space to struggle, because he hasn't played in so long, and it's going to be a big time adjustment. It's going to be a lot faster than the last time he played. He's going to need the reps, but this is such a good situation for a young quarterback to walk into. Like when you look at the Caleb Williams didn't want to be drafted by the Bears storyline earlier this summer, and he wanted to go to the Vikings. It's easy to see why. You got a good offensive line, good offensive coach, maybe the best receiver in football, depending on what your flavor is that day. So go get it done. I just hope that it's not so bad that one of the best teams in the league gets neutered. But man, I just believe in KOC so much. I've seen Sam Darnold play without those guys before. It didn't look pretty. So I guess if you're the hopeful here and you're still kind of like agnostic about JJ McCarthy, the floor here is really, really high with the talent they've assembled on the field and in the coaching staff.
Yeah, the reality is like it's just really hard to learn about like what a quarterback is doing in training camp on the outside for a variety of different reasons. Like if you're there every day and like talking to people there, I think you can get a vibe. Like it was like the first few practices that like Mahomes was in Kansas City, people were, even before he was starting, people were like, oh my God, yeah, we're like, the people with the Chiefs were jacked up about that, or at least that's what they're telling everybody now that he is, a great quarterback. But like people going there and like counting how many interceptions a guy's thrown, like that doesn't matter. So it's hard to assess quarterback performance in training camp. So I don't really know like what the signs and signals that we are looking for here, but I do certainly want to be inhaling like a lot of JJ McCarthy optimism. Like I want that smoke to be coming out of Minnesota because, as you mentioned, like this was a great ecosystem last year. I think it's set up to even be better this year. Obviously, with the additions on the offensive line, getting Christian Darrisaw back is huge. We were just talking about Cam Robinson. That was the guy that replaced Christian Darrisaw when he went down. That was like a fine move, but it didn't really work out. They add Jordan Mason to the backfield. Jordan Addison's probably going to miss a couple games because of a suspension, but they add Ty Felton in the draft, who might give them a little like more of a layup speed receiver type dimension. TJ Hawkinson is healthy this year. He wasn't healthy for most of last year. And then on defense too, like you add Javon Hargrave and Jonathan Allen, like two guys who obviously might not be at their peak at this point, but like, again, you've added to that side of the ball when that was already a really tough defense to play against. Like conceivably this team is number one, probably better set up to win than it was last year. And maybe is set up to like have quarterback be more of a supporting part than it was last year. So I don't know. I'm just very interested in tracking like the McCarthy optimism over the course of the offseason because man, he is one of the most important people in the NFL right now.
Yeah. And I know Vikings fans, like they got really mad when I said it was just interesting that the Vikings were looking at signing Aaron Rodgers back in March. I don't know how that makes how like what the signals they feel about JJ McCarthy, but it is interesting that they did try to like hedge themselves a little bit here. So we'll see how it goes. He seems to be like a talented guy, good kid, rooting for him, but still got to go out and perform and do in the field.
Last thing we will talk about here, and we don't have to spend a lot of time on this, but Browns quarterback situation. My question to you is less so like, how many games do you think Joe Flacco will start? How many games do you think Dylan Gabriel will start? Any of that stuff. I don't like this whole idea during the offseason, after they draft Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders, they trade for Kenny Pickett, they have Joe Flacco. Yeah, it's a 4-man quarterback competition. The more I thought about it, like, Charles, that's not a thing. Like, you don't have, there's never even enough reps to get the backup. Like forget about, right now the Colts have a quarterback competition and they are truly like splitting. It's probably from what I've read so far, like 60% Daniel Jones and 40% Anthony Richardson, or maybe more like 55-45. Like it's truly a two-way split. But what's not going to happen is Joe Flacco is going to take 25% and Kenny Pickett is going to take 25%. Right. These two rookies are going to pick up the other 25%.
It doesn't work like that.
It don't work like that. So how can the Browns actually have a quarterback competition and get a look at all these guys? Or is the answer just like, they're not?
They're not. They're just not. Okay, maybe preseason games. That's probably going to be like the most amount of reps that like someone like Shedeur Sanders sees. And look, man, I mean, did you see the new uniforms the Browns dropped today?
Yeah, those. Am I tripping or like was that black? Like that didn't look brown.
Okay, it's not just that it's an all brown uniform. They're sponsored by Dude Wipes. Like, come on, like. And that's what the Browns are serving to us with this quarterback competition. Like I have truly been baffled at the amount of care that has gone into a 5th round rookie quarterback and his like mini camp throws. Like, y'all really don't have anything better to do with your time than sit around tracking Shedeur Sanders mini camp throws. And I'm not talking about like Browns reporters. That's your job. But like random people on the internet who are like living and dying by this stuff. I get it. Like, it's disappointing. You thought he was going to be a 1st round pick. He thought he was going to be a 1st round pick. He goes 5 rounds later than that. But can we just like deal with reality for a second? The reality of the situation. Does anyone remember how the Cleveland Browns started their draft? They had the number 2 pick in the draft. They traded down from 2 to 5 and pick up Jacksonville's 1st round pick for next year, which I would say any year that the Jacksonville Jaguars are in existence, that's probably a valuable asset for you to own. The Jacksonville Jaguars' future 1st round pick. Maybe you're optimistic about this year, but historically it says that's probably a good thing to have in your back pocket because it might be pretty high. For a team that is clearly in rebuilding mode, the owner has come out and said, we messed up on the Deshaun Watson thing. It's time to move forward. They signed 4 quarterbacks this offseason. Like, none of these, like, there's a good chance none of these guys are major factors in this quarterback room in like 6 months. So why are we getting so
right.
hyped up about this? Like because I said in our text thread before we were getting ready for the show, I was like, oh my God, like, I don't want to talk this because Shedeur Sanders, like he's probably gonna be out of a job by December. And I don't mean like off the Browns roster. I mean eliminated from having the chance to be their long-term starting quarterback. But that is true for probably all three of these guys.
All four of them.
Right, all four of them. This team has 2 first-round picks for next year in a draft that is supposed to be like quarterback rich. We're looking at this as a draft that is a lot better than the one we just came from. So am I really supposed to get excited and hyped up about a fifth-round quarterback who is on a rebuilding team that we know isn't good, that is rebuilding the offensive line, that has 2 first-round picks for next year? I don't understand the fervor outside of just like Deion Sanders' worship, which he's not playing. It's not that interesting. Like he's not a part of this anymore. It's just a 5th-round rookie quarterback truly fighting for his NFL career. And that's just not something that ever sticks in the NFL for teams that are trying to rebuild. They're just going to draft like Lenore Sellers or maybe Arch Manning next year. And that sucks to like hear, but we have to stop like talking about this as if it's a real thing, because it's not. He's a 5th-round rookie quarterback on a really bad team, and he's not going to get a whole lot of practice reps because all the other quarterbacks that they invested more in are also new. So I just need people to chill out about this. Maybe I need to chill about this because I'm getting upset at how much people...
You're getting upset.
No, I've been upset the whole time at how much people care about this. If he was a first-round pick or even a second-round pick, I'll give it to you. We're talking about a 5th-round rookie quarterback who wasn't even the first quarterback that his team drafted in the goddamn draft.
That's the thing right there.
Stop.
Like if Dillon Gabriel didn't exist, and like, look, I mean, the Dillon Gabriel pick, we made fun of that when it happened, right? You know, we thought that, or maybe didn't make fun of it, but on our draft show, we were like, what? Like that was crazy that they took Dillon Gabriel in the 3rd round, but they did do it.
They did.
It happened, right? Like, and I think if Dillon Gabriel, that pick didn't happen, and you know, it was just Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Shedeur Sanders as a random 5th rounder, I'd be like, hey, that maybe he has a shot to play. And look, he might have a shot to play. Like there's why not? Like all 4 of these guys see time, but my problem there with that is like, there's no way. I think whoever, dude, even the 3rd quarterback, forget about the freaking 4th one. The
right,
3rd quarterback, the 3rd quarterback is not going to be prepared to play because like he's going to have spent no time with the first team offense. He's going to have thrown probably 0 passes with Jerry Jeudy. And again, I'm grouping the QB 3 and 4, whoever that guy is not going to have any shot to like, cause there's just not enough reps to go around. Like they're going to have a couple, this is how training camp works. They're gonna have a couple weeks here to just like install things and whatever. And see how guys work. And then it's going to be on to week 1. It's going to be, let's go try to put a game plan together. And that's probably going to be with Joe Flacco. And then Flacco is going to take every single first team rep from there on out. Like this is not 4 dogs enter, 1 bone, 1 person comes out here. Like this is not how this is going to work. And I think it's instructive to frame it that way. And by the way, like one of these guys, as you said, would have to light it the F up to start for this team in 2026. I mean, light it up.
Like rookie of the year level stuff, you know?
Yeah. Right. Which that's what had to happen. It's not gonna. My guess is it's not gonna happen with any of these guys, because when I look at this Browns roster, like it's a great defense, but the offensive roster is seriously flawed. Like the offensive line is like DeJuan Jones is their starting left tackle, I guess. Like it's an aging group on that side, and like one guy declines, it's a big problem. Their 2nd round rookie running back might not even start the damn season because of a domestic violence arrest.
Might not play at all. You never know.
Might not play at all. So then it's Jerome Ford and Dylan Sampson. Maybe Dylan Sampson's a baller. I don't know. That's a question there. The pass catching group, like Jerry Jeudy is still a very, very inconsistent player who worked with Jameis Winston because they used Jerry Jeudy really well. They had him run all these like big in breakers, and Jameis will just fire it. Maybe Flacco does that, but the other 3 guys I'm skeptical can do that stuff. And then like I like Cedric Tillman. I think he's a really good sleeper because he had like a moment last year that people are kind of forgetting about. But then that's it. Then it's like their 3rd receiver is Deontay Johnson, who quit on 2 teams last year. Like that's what this team looks like right now. So it's just a tough situation for any of these guys.
Here's the last thing I'll say, hopefully forever, on the 2024 Browns, or what year is it? 2024? No, it's 2025.
2025, yes.
2025. Yeah. Here's the last thing I'll say. That's the song I'm getting old. I don't even know where here it is. Here's the last thing I'll say on the 2025 Browns quarterback room. By September, they'll be looking at Arch Manning, Lawrence Sellers, Drew Aller, Kid Klubnik highlights, and you should too.
There we go. Boom. Exclamation point to end the episode. Well, that was a good show, Chuck. We went everywhere. We went all throughout the league. Hopefully people are a little more primed to actually like what really matters heading into camp here. What are you working on right now that the people can check out?
Oh, we are working on some stuff behind the scenes. I think a few of us are working on like our own separate 25-year quarter mark century projects of the NFL. So
there we go.
I've been watching a ton of like early 2000s football over the past week and a half. And it's actually been pretty fun. So I think Nate and I are going to start working on something when he gets back from paternity leave. And I'm pretty excited to see how that turns out. There used to be something called an ump cam that I totally forgot about, where the umpire had a replay cam like on his chest. And I kind of want to get into
it's like a body cam.
Yes,
like a cop's body cam.
They will stop. They're like in between plays. So like, and here we go to the ump cam, and you can see how the Rams decide to run their play, and it's just a mass of bodies. You can't see a goddamn thing, but it's kind of cool. So I've we've been gathering a bunch of stuff about that, and I'm excited to show you guys whenever it comes out, sometimes in August. So that's what we're working on.
Hell yeah. So make sure you're dialed into that. And like Charles said, Nate is going to be back next week. So yes. Very excited. We're going to be rolling out our top 10 defenses, top 10 offenses podcast next week. So got to start really thinking about those. So yeah, very excited. A lot of great stuff coming here. Football 301. We will be back next week. That is at 4Verts. I am at Matt Harmon _BYB. Make sure you subscribe to the show, follow us, rate us, all the things. Watch us on YouTube, please. And again, be very excited for Nate to be back here very shortly. Thanks to everybody behind the scenes who works on the show. Thank you to all for listening, especially as you put up with us without Nate, since, I mean, Charles, it's probably the reason most people are here anyways,
Yeah.
They're just like big Nate heads. So, but that's great. I'm glad you guys put up with us in the meantime. Thank you all for listening. We will catch you all next time.